wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. But on today's episode, it's a pleasure to be here with Renee Paquette. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you? Dealing with a fluffy baby over here, but we're managing.
Listen, I got a 5-year-old, I got a 2-year-old, and secretly another one on the way. So there's a lot going on here as well. Yeah. So I understand the struggle.
Oh my gosh. She just took a little face plant and like her little teeth caught her tongue. So she's not having a good time downstairs right now.
Of course. On Halloween night, one time, my daughter, she was like 1 year old, maybe 2, dressed as a kitty cat, walking around. She tripped. I go to grab her by like her scruff of her costume. I lift her up and she just kind of tea kettled that way. And I was like, I'm the one. I solved the problem, but also caused the problem.
Yeah, I know. It's the worst.
Parents out there, it's tough. It is tough, but I will try to make this as easy as possible for you. Kick your feet up, enjoy yourself. So let's jump into it. So how did you get into professional wrestling? Because I know a lot of people channel surf, or a friend or a family member. How did you fall into it?
Well, I think like my first relationship with wrestling, I guess, so to speak, would be my friends when I was in like 4th grade, probably. I remember going down and so my dad was a concert promoter. He also had me working down at the Air Canada Center, what used to be the Air Canada Center, and wrestling was coming into town. But anyways, friends of mine were like obsessed. They were obsessed with The Rock, with Austin, with Kane, like with The Undertaker. They were doing tombstones on the lawn, don't try this stuff at home, all that stuff. So that was really my first kind of like foray into wrestling. And then when my dad was working at the show, we all got to go down and we were like backstage, and I got to see China and Mankind and The Rock, like just seeing all of these like larger than life characters was like mind blowing to me. But then, fast forward a couple years after that, and I started my broadcasting career, and my boss at the time asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to host this show after Monday Night Raw? We'll do like a post show after WWE. And I was like, sure. I was so early in my career too. I mean, I'm still in my career. I'm a firm believer in like saying yes to things and seeing what happens and make the most of it. And that's what happened. They asked me to host that show. I said yes, and kind of the rest is history.
Wow, that's a dream come true for anyone, for starting being, oh my God, there's The Rock. And then eventually, oh, hello, Rock, how are you?
Totally.
That's as I sit here right now talking to you, you go back when I was a child, obsessed with wrestling as well. I got all my memorabilia behind me and all that good stuff. And now NBC's 10 Count here talking to Renee. So
here we are.
Dreams are happening. Now, when you worked for the WWE, you did like everything. Commentary, the JBL and Cole show, and you did shows after SmackDown and Raw. You did backstage, Tough Enough, Total Divas. Was there something out of that bunch right there? What was the part that you enjoyed the most, and what was the part you enjoyed the least?
The thing that I enjoyed the most, I always will say Talking Smack, because Talking Smack to me, it was so like guerrilla style. We were not married to any kind of a script. It really felt like we were just like running loose on the side. And we're like, is anybody watching this? Are we getting away with, like, what are we getting away with here? So that's what felt really fun to me, is like that flying under the radar aspect that Talking Smack had. Of course, it only flew under the radar for so long, and people were like, wait, we like the show. Okay, it became like a little bit of like a cult hit. But yeah, that was one of my favorites. I mean, working with Mike Mansouri, he's one of my best friends. He was a producer of the show at the time. So for us to be able to work together, of course, working with Daniel Bryan when he was not an in-ring talent at the time. So yeah, there were so many different aspects to that I absolutely loved. And the thing that I liked the least, I kind of hate to say this, but it's true. It was doing the commentary. I didn't love doing it. I love the opportunity of it, of course. Like, it was such a huge opportunity. I'm so happy that I got to be someone to step in there to do that I got to make history, that I was afforded the opportunity to step in there to do that. I love that. But the actual job itself, I just didn't love. Like, I like hosting shows. I like being able to be myself and be a personality. And I found that really difficult to do on commentary, you know, kind of being that first woman to step in there, figuring out what my role was in a 3-man booth. You know, and I think for WWE, for the higher ups as well, for them to figure out like, hey, how do we want this to work? We're not used to hearing a woman's voice. What are we doing here? How can we make this work? So I think, you know, the first person to go in there to do that, you're kind of throwing some stuff against the wall and hoping for the best. And I think that, you know, whoever comes after me that will do a great job. And that's the thing that they want to do. They want to be a commentator. By all means, like I hope they knock it out of the park. I thought Beth Phoenix did an amazing job with it.
Yeah, I was just going to bring her up. I thought she did incredible. You know, you in NXT, I think as well, was you just brought it up a second ago. You like to be able to be loosey-goosey and be yourself. Well, I feel like NXT, they let you be yourself.
Yeah.
Raw was like, you got to hit these points. You got to say this. You got to talk about that storyline. We're promoting this. Like you have a lot, but you did host all those, you know, pre-game shows to get you pumped up for pay-per-views. And I always thought you did a great job at those, but obviously you're obviously talking to your panel as well, but you're also delivering like, hey, come on, 7:00, this show starts.
Different conversations though, and they're very different jobs. And as much as I like to consider myself sort of like a jack of all trades, I love to try all these different things out. They're very different jobs. Whether I'm doing a backstage interview or whether I was hosting a kickoff panel or I'm doing commentary, like they are all very different hats. Doing a backstage interview is essentially like an acting job. You're reading a script, you're asking a question, and you have to react accordingly. You know, hosting a kickoff show, that's far more conversational. We get to hang out, we ask questions, we can react to things, we can just be like people hanging out, enjoying wrestling, talking about it. But then doing commentary is like you're talking in sound bites. I literally changed the register of my voice so that I could try to blend in with the men so that it wasn't this like higher pitched voice kind of cutting in there, trying to talk faster to get my points in there, trying to like, you have to emphasize moments when someone's getting hit and you've got to like react like that instead of just talking. And they're very different things. And I have an appreciation for all of them. And I have a mega appreciation for people that do commentary, especially in the professional wrestling space. Because it's a lot of moving parts. There's so many different little details, and you know, obviously you've got Vince in your ear. The show is changing. People, you know, there's so many different things happening.
I remember you go back. So when you're doing commentary, you were talking about what's happening in the ring, obviously. But I remember when I was a kid watching, you know, Attitude Era, JR and Jerry Lawler, they were just hitting me home with "Turn on a knot when Stone Cold Steve out." Like even the Los Pericas are in the ring. We're not talking about them. We're talking about what's happening in 2 hours. So I thought you did a great job, though, of hitting home what's happening in front of you versus, hey, by the way, in 2 hours, you should care about this in 2 hours as well. But pay attention to what's happening in the ring.
Yeah, so we still did have to do that. It's part of the job. You know, when there's a match that's not necessarily the marquee match, or it's a story that's kind of lagging, we're not really sure where it's going, there might be a time in there that we're like, well, hey, keep in mind tonight's main event is going to be X, Y, and Z. Like that is a thing that you're going to kind of plug in whenever it makes sense.
Of course. I just felt like JR hit me in the head so many times with "on a knot." And I always enjoyed JR doing that. I still remember it today. That was 20 years ago. So when you worked for the WWE, did anyone ever try to pitch the idea of you wrestling?
Not really. No. You know, I think that was actually something that they really kept me away from. And I think that they kept me away from it because, you know, I think that they really appreciated what I brought to the table as a broadcaster. I think that they didn't really they wanted me to continue to be taken seriously to a degree. You know, I think they saw that I had earned like a certain amount of like respect and appreciation from the fans. And I think they just didn't want to like muddy that by now making me a wrestler and sort of taking away the credit that I had built in the broadcast space. So it was funny because I remember really early on, like one of my very first meetings ever at WWE, I was like at the headquarters in Stamford, and I'm like meeting all the executives and meeting all these people and blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, well, you know, we've gotten all these, because I don't think they knew what they were hiring me for. They were just like, there's this girl. She seems good. I don't know. Like,
she's a girl.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I remember them being like, yeah, like we've got Mickey James who's releasing music, and we've got so and so doing this. Like they were like rattling off just like all the other opportunities and how WWE can really be such a springboard platform for different parts of your career and other things that you want to do.
Of course, yeah. Then we've seen it. Look, the most popular Hollywood actor in the world is The Rock, and some people probably don't even know he used to be a wrestler. So
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
that's where we're at in this world. But in SummerSlam 2020, you announced that you were going to leave the WWE, and I think a lot of people didn't see that coming. They're like, "Oh, what? I'm sorry, what's happening?" So, what made you leave? Was it the schedule, the pandemic? Probably a lot of things happening all at once.
well, it was kind of a lot of things. I mean, first of all, I got to do so much. I had already kind of done it all, I loved all those things, but I didn't want to just sit there and be stagnant and not continue to grow and find things to do. Not to say that I couldn't have found other things within WWE to still do. It's like, I was doing the show with Fox, doing WWE Backstage, which I love doing, but then that show got canceled due to the pandemic. So that show got canceled. I was sort of in no man's land in terms of like what I was doing on WWE programming, because I was not doing commentary. I was like the special contributor or whatever, which honestly didn't really mean anything. I was never really on TV much with SmackDown at the time. So I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing or where I belonged there anymore at that point. And then, I mean, once WWE Backstage got canceled, that really was to me where I was like, you know what, like it's time now to go do something. Also, we're in the pandemic. My husband doesn't work there anymore. I also just wanted to go and see what else was out there. I really I did love my time there. I had a great time, and I would not have the career and the opportunities that I have today was it not for that. But at the same time, I just felt like I was spinning my wheels.
Well, you said like it was an opportunity there, and you obviously have talent, so it wasn't just WWE giving you a platform. There's you obviously with talent, and the WWE gave you somewhere to showcase it. But now you have your own podcast, Oral Sessions, and that's doing well, obviously, because you're chumming out episodes. But who was your favorite guest, and probably why is it Danhausen?
You know what? I need to have Danhausen back on. I love me some Danhausen, except for when he's, having issues with my husband, of course.
Well, I'm trying to put a curse on him.
I know he needs to calm down with the cursing. There's a lot of cursing.
He's a father. He's a husband. Doesn't Danhausen understand this?
We can't have that brought upon our family into our household. We can't. My favorite guest, wrestling wise, gosh.
Well, I did some research, and the most popular one though was with Paul White, the Big Show, explaining his move from WWE AEW. So that's the most popular video on your YouTube channel. But obviously that's popular. But who's your favorite to chit chat with? I guess.
God, that's hard for me to say. It's like everyone's like. You know what? Actually, I do. I think I would have to say, and I'm gonna pair them up because I think I'm allowed to, but I would say Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. Those were two of my absolute favorite episodes. I loved having them on together as FTR, but I think them as individuals, that really was to me of like, you have these badass professional wrestlers, some of the absolute best, especially when it comes to tag team technician wrestling. Those guys are amazing, but then you see them drop their guard and just being human beings. And that's what really made me want to do this podcast is, I got to spend so much time with all these amazing people, and we don't really know as much about their real lives as maybe not that we should. It's up to them if they want to share that, obviously. But I just think people have really interesting stories, and the fact that they could be so vulnerable and be so honest about, their background, their upbringing, certain things that they had gone through, those, some of those troubling moments. I think those, I like having those conversations, but I also love giving people that platform to talk about those things, maybe, get some stuff off their chest. And who knows how many people are going to be listening and being like, oh my God, if this guy went through this, of course I can relate to that. And, I just think that it's just important, I think, to have those very transparent conversations. And as much as it's cool to have these big, larger than life people on television, and there's still people at the end of the day. And I think just a friendly reminder of that every now and then is good.
That is true. I go back like a year and a half ago. I was interviewing Jeff Hardy. Before I was interviewing him, I was like, "Oh my God, it's Jeff Hardy! Oh my God, it's Jeff Hardy!" You have a conversation. I was done. I talked to my wife. She's like, "How'd it go? How'd it go?" I was like, "He's a normal person. Like he's a human being." But you just forget because you see someone on TV, the charismatic enigma, swanton bombs, dancing around at any chance he can do. But yeah, and like I said, sitting here talking to you right now, I'm talking to Renee, and we're asking you questions about your career, but at the same time, we're chit chatting, we have kids conversations. Let's talk about food though. You got a cook. I got a cookbook.
Yeah.
And listen, Messy in the Kitchen is probably my nickname at my house. It's also the name of your book. But yet, at the same time, when I go to a party and it's like a potluck, you got to bring something. It's always like, oh, I'll bring cookies, I'll bring brownies, I'll bring blah, blah. What would you, if someone's like, hey, Renee, I need you to bring a platter to a party, what are you bringing?
I think that I would lean into the charcuterie. I have the layout in my book of how to build a charcuterie. I mean, to each their own, do whatever you want. This is just my guide to putting one together, but I've never seen somebody be upset at an unveiling of a charcuterie board. Who doesn't want the meats, the cheeses, the crackers, the dips, all the little accoutrements? So I think that I would go, if I was doing a platter of something, it would definitely be a charcuterie board.
See, you're the good friend. There's other people who show up, go to a local grocery store and show up with cookies and just crack it open. Here you go.
No way, not around here. That doesn't fly.
So you're making the homemade cookies. If you are on cookie duty,
yes,
homemade.
100%. Yes.
Just want to make sure because there might be fighting words in your house.
Oh my God, no! I couldn't. No, that's irresponsible. You can't just show up to a party with store-bought things. You got to put a little love into it, a little effort. There's nothing better. I actually, at Christmas time, one of my girlfriends, she sent just a box of homemade cookies. And I was like, man, how nice is that? You were at home in your kitchen and you wrapped these up and you shipped them off to me. That is so much better than you being like, here's the thing off Amazon, or here I bought this thing. I love the attention to detail and a nice little homemade thoughtful gift.
Of course, a nice handwritten note versus a text goes a long way. But also, I can't draw a good scribble, so my
writing's so bad, so bad.
Did your 5-year-old write this? I'm like, no, they didn't. It was me.
I know. I've had to write out my banking information for a few things, and they're like, "Can you actually email it to us?" I was like, "Oh, because you can't read my writing." Got it. Great.
Right. It's confusing sometimes. Yeah. But also, I doing some research, I discovered that you were a big fan of ice cream. But who really isn't a fan of ice cream, right?
I will say this though, I'm not normally a sweet tooth person. I am savory all day, all day, all day. But since I've been pregnant and had a baby, I just have not shaken the sweet tooth. I love sweet things now. It's weird.
So what would be your thing to lean on them? Because for my house, my kids and my wife love chocolate. I'm a Skittles Starburst guy. Where you landed on that candy department?
When it comes to candy like that, I am gummies all day. Give me gummy worms, gummy bears, Sour Patch Kids. That stuff is really up my alley. God, I love anytime we're on a road trip. My first thing into a gas station is I want some gummy bears for sure.
I think we just became best friends, by the way, after you just said that. Let's go back to WWE for a second. Now, if they called you up and was like, hey, Renee, I want you back, would you return?
I mean, listen, if there's one thing I've learned in wrestling, it's you never say never. You never know what's going to happen. And like I said, it's I didn't leave WWE because I was like, screw this. I hate this. I don't want to be here. That was not, that wasn't how I left. That's not why I left. So yeah, I think if the right opportunity came up, of course I would be all ears and be interested in that. There is a big part of me that I miss it. Of course I miss it. I miss my friends. There's certain things that I really miss. I'm sure within a second of being back, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm back into this again. But no, I think I would definitely, I'd be open to the conversation depending on what it is. It would have to be the right thing. It would have to be something new and fresh and with good people.
And then, of course, your husband does work for AEW. Have they ever contacted you? You don't have to share that part, but would you ever go there and do the same exact thing you were doing WWE, but in AEW?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you think of like, the exact same thing in WWE, like what I don't like, that's the thing that I don't really know is like, what would I do? I don't want to do commentary. I don't think going to do backstage interviews is the move.
Right.
So I think, again, it would have to be something different, something that I felt like was, using my skill in the best way. And it's trying to find that sweet spot. I love doing backstage interviews, but I've done that. I've done it for so long that I need to find what that other thing's going to do. If it's like a cool sit down interview or, an expansion of something like the sessions and being able to talk to the talent and do some like real great personality profiles, like stuff like that I'm really into. I mean, there's stuff that I would love to do and coming up with like the creative on what exactly that would be. But yeah, I would definitely be into that. I mean, it's, you look at both those worlds, it's like WWE and AEW. WWE is the familiar thing that I know. It's a thing that I have done for the longest in the duration of my career. So of course that's always there. But then you look at the things on AEW and there's still, obviously my husband's there. I still have a ton of other friends that are there. I'm there more often, I guess. I'm not that I'm there very much. I would definitely be open to a conversation about that.
I think people are enjoying your work, obviously what you do now with your own podcast, but I think the wrestling world is a little sadder, a little darker without you in it. So hopefully you'll go somewhere. I mean, we don't know.
Nothing else. It would just be nice to like not wear workout clothes for a second and just like put on a proper outfit.
No.
I know. I say that and I'm like, wait, jeans? Ew.
Or like, hey, you're gonna dress up in this, gown because we're going to Hall of Fame and WrestleMania and all that stuff, or AEW, whatever. It's like, I'd rather just not.
For the time being, but then you're like, oh, I got to sit down in this. That's not really going to work. I mean, getting dressed up is always nice, but there's nothing better than going back and wiping off all your makeup and putting on your sweatpants and getting back to the regular shit.
Of course. Now let's talk about time travel for a second. Now, time traveling, people love time travel. The idea of going in the past, the future. If there was a moment, we're sticking to wrestling, of course. If there was a moment in wrestling that you could get in your DeLorean with Doc Brown and travel back in time to witness it firsthand, which one would it be?
Probably for me, some classic Mean Gene moments. Because knowing Gene, and God, did I love that man. Like he was just the best. Like he was the guy who paved the way for me to go in to do the things that I did. But also like I have such a great relationship with him. Like what I would give to just like have some moments like watching Mean Gene in some of those like iconic moments that we all know, hearing what happened when the camera stopped rolling. Like I would love to be there for those moments.
That'd be pretty funny. Hey, put that cigarette out. And it's like, oh, there's Renee in common day clothes.
Love it. Just to see Mean Gene like in his like prime.
Oh, there he is.
When I worked with Gene, there he is. That sweet
Gene.
Man, the best.
Oh.
When him and I worked together, he was obviously much older, and I loved hanging out with him, but he was still so sharp always. Like the stuff that he would say and just rattle off, like I would be in tears between takes. So to get like prime Mean Gene during some of those iconic moments and like his reaction once the camera shut off would be amazing.
I know. Bobby Heenan would be someone I would love to bump into in the past. Just be like, just talk to him, let him rip me into shreds if he wanted to. I'm like, thank you so much for insulting me, make me cry. Yeah. That'd be great. I know the Mean Gene, Grill Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, Sean Mooney, Lord Alfred Hayes. Like that is classic golden era WWE, as some people will call it. Yeah. So now let's move on though, because everyone has a perception of your husband, Jon Moxley. But what's he like as a dad, a husband? Is he letting the young one play with barbed wire baseball bats?
We're not there yet, thank God. It's funny, I had like a tweet drafted yesterday that I didn't end up posting, but I've been working on putting like a gym in the back of the house. So I was like on the treadmill, I have on my headphones, the baby's napping, but I still have her like baby monitor up. So you're obviously when she wakes up. And he was up and got her when she started crying, but like hearing him talking to her through the baby monitor, I was like, it's time for baby number 2 immediately. Come here. Let's knock this out. Like, I feel like those like moments of seeing and like hearing your husband with your baby and seeing like this bond that they have, like there is nothing better than like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, that's baby number 2 fuel is what that is.
Wow. Talking.
I know, but no, it's great. I mean, it's so cool. I can't wait for her to recognize him doing what he does. She has gone to some, it's funny having her like backstage, and like Eddie Kingston is like Uncle Eddie with her, like seeing how sweet he is with her, like Bryan Danielson, like down on the ground, rolling around with her. Like she's having the time of her life, but she doesn't know what's going on. I've brought her out while Jon's wrestling before, and she's just kind of like looking around, checking things out, not a clue, but it will be really cool when she recognizes that it's him doing this and like what's going on. I can't wait for that to like register, but also he can explain it to her.
Like, oh, daddy is bleeding out ketchup. That's ketchup falling from daddy's face, not
oh
blood.
God, yeah. They can have that conversation.
That's amazing. And so let's go to a moment that it's still like strange to me seeing, Jon, he came back to AEW after a little while being gone, and he comes out and the fans are going wild. Moxley chants, thank you, everything to think of in a positive manner. And then some asshole over there in the crowd yells something stupid. I don't even know what he yelled. It doesn't even matter what he yelled. All I need to know is, did anyone ever say, like, let's actually kick that fan out? Because I was just even insulted for the situation, because that's so disrespectful.
Yeah, very disrespectful. And you know what? I don't know what happened. And I'm pretty sure Jon doesn't know what happened, because, he didn't give it a second thought after that moment, other than like he kind of served him his shit during it. When I can't remember, Jon says like, kick that guy out, whatever. So I think that was the most Jon thought about it afterwards. So I don't know if the guy got kicked out or not, but I'm glad that Jon reacted and said something to them, because in a normal situation you can't really hear that. You can't hear individuals sometimes when you're like in the ring, but they were in a smaller arena at the time, so Jon really could hear everybody, and it was real quiet while he was talking. Everyone was giving him the respect and welcoming him back and letting him have the floor. So when he actually could hear that person, it's just like such a rare instance of actually being able to hear someone, the guy saying something stupid, and then Jon immediately asking for that guy to be removed. So I don't know if he did get removed or not, though.
Yes, the quote is, "Hey, go F yourself. Get that guy out of here, you piece of poop."
I love that he had not been on TV for like 3 months or so, and like within the first couple minutes of like being on TBS, just dropping an F-bomb, an S-bomb. Well,
that guy deserved it. So what I think everyone, even at home, was like, "Wow, I can't believe he said that." Then everyone's like, "I'm glad he said that." Like the instant of, "I can't believe he said that," to, "I'm glad he said that," was instant.
I'm so glad he said that. If it's your knee-jerk reaction and you swear, I don't know. I'm also pretty loosey-goosey when it comes to the cursing, so I'm never all that offended by it. But yeah, right. But no, it's your knee-jerk reaction, and it was a big moment. So hey, get it out there.
Of course, I was very happy he said that. So just let him know. The fans are, trust me, the fans are. I know he doesn't use Twitter at all, but the fans definitely are behind that moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that was, it was so great to see him back, and the fans were going crazy. And then it was like you said, it suddenly went from 100 to 0. They were like, whatever you want to say, Jon, just say whatever you want, and we're all here to listen and respect you. And then some.
Someone's always got to ruin the moment,
There's always a turd in the punch bowl, and that guy was the turd in the punch bowl, sir. One last question, though. What are your goals for the year? You just said, I think you just revealed that you want to have a second baby. So is that the goal for the year? What else?
Yeah. I would actually really love to do that at some point, sooner than later, I guess. But no immediate actual plans for that. But yeah, career-wise, I'm loving doing everything with the sessions right now, and always continuing to expand that and have different conversations, have on different guests. Like, as much as I love having on wrestlers and people from the wrestling world, it's also, I love having on a sex therapist. I love having on other broadcasters. I love having on athletes from different sports. So that's something I'm always kind of looking to expand upon a little bit more. So that's definitely something I'll be looking into doing. I've got my Sirius XM show with Misha Tate. I feel like her and I have been in like a real good groove lately, which has been nice. You know, we do the show. We started doing the show when I was, God, I think like 6 weeks after I had Nora, maybe 8 weeks after I had Nora. So we just got right into doing the show, but then we moved. Misha and I we were both live in Las Vegas, and then Jon and I moved to Cincinnati. So we've done everything remote. So it's, it takes a little longer, I think, to like really get in a groove sometimes. You're doing a 3-hour show, but I do feel like we're like in a real good sweet spot right now. So it's nice being in that space. I'm really enjoying talking, a little more MMA, some boxing, other combat sports. It's cool to dip my toe into those waters a little bit. And yeah, just continue cooking and looking to see what other opportunities there are. When I'm here in Cincinnati, do I have to get on a flight? Do I have to go to New York for something? Do I have to go to LA for something? It's just kind of seeing what else is happening out there while just staying busy in my own home, doing all the shows and stuff that I do from this exact spot.
Well, I am honored that you were here today on NBC's 10 Count. Renee, thank you so much for being here, because, I sent out the email. And then I got Mojo writing back to me. I'm like, Mojo Rowley is emailing me about Renee?
Hi.
I was like, what's happening here? But hey, it's the wrestling world, and we all connected. We're all connected.
Yeah.
So
again, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. And take care of the little one. Always take care of the little one, because, sometimes you're doing your own thing, and then your brain is also thinking in the back of it, oh, I got to feed this child. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's an endless list.
Never ends. It keeps me up at night. Blessings to all of the parents. We're constantly thinking of a million different things.
So thank you, all the parents out there. Thank you, Renee, for being a guest, and thank you for watching another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. Have a great time, and we'll see you next time. Bye.